Welcome to Ordinary Teachers and Students, where we get to hear teachers and students tell us their extraordinary stories. My hope is that through this podcast, ordinary teachers from around the world can relate to the stories they hear and get some timely suggestions and ideas. My name is Alan Cheng, and I'm a secondary school teacher in the UK, a life coach, and a former university lecturer. My mission is to make the education system a better place for all. Today, I'm delighted to invite Noah Lane onto our podcast. Noah is currently majoring in business at a university in the United States, and in the most recent semester, he made it onto the Dean's List. His hobbies include thrifting, crocheting, reading, listening to music, and playing with his two cats. I've never taught Noah before, but I was part of the interviewing panel that interviewed him for secondary school admission. Honestly, I still remember that feeling of, wow, this student is going to be quite some student. So I'm very excited to chat to Noah today. Let's welcome Noah. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm Noah. Nice to meet you guys. Nice to talk to you guys on this podcast. I'm here with Dr. Chang and Miss Lloyd today, and Miss Lloyd was my English teacher when I was in S4, and she played a huge role in my senior years, and I just wanted to invite her on this podcast as well. So thank you,
Yeah,
Dr. Chan, for giving me this opportunity
no worries.
for being on the podcast and for letting me invite Miss Lloyd as well.
And just Alan or Mr. Cheng is fine. But yeah, we're doing a
Oh, okay.
podcast first. That we're having two guests. So, Miss Lloyd, do you want to say hi as well?
Hi, yeah. So as Noah said, I was his teacher in S4 and S5, and I just remember Noah being one of my first students who really taught me how to be a teacher. So Noah will
Interesting.
always
Aw,
play a special part in my heart. Yeah, as one of my
Okay,
very first.
aw.
that's interesting. So as I told Miss Lloyd before, Miss Lloyd is a very interesting teacher by herself, but the focus today is on Noah, and obviously we'll bring in Miss Lloyd when we need to. And maybe Noah, if you tell me a little bit about yourself. I mean, we've had the intro. Do you want to take us all the way back to primary school first? Like, what were you like as a primary school student?
Sure. So before I met my stepdad, I used to go to this primary school for and I went to this primary school in all the way in Kuntong, and it was like an okay school. I didn't really like it. I remember being teased
Mm,
by my classmates because of my skin color, because I was
mm,
just different than other
mm,
kids.
mm,
But it didn't really matter to me all that much. I just kind of brushed it off. But like deep down, did it really matter? Like a little bit. I would just say a
mm,
little bit. But and
mm,
then
mm,
after I met my stepdad, I moved all the way to Taipo, which is where
mm,
we lived, and um I went to this primary school. It was the best primary school ever. I loved it.
mm.
I was pretty much the king of the school.
Wow.
I was, I had lots of friends. I
Mm.
enjoyed myself over there. It was the best school ever.
What was it just that
And
there were
then,
more like other non-Chinese students in the school?
yes, there's
Mm.
like um, there's like more students who are like me, like meaning like with different backgrounds. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I was more comfortable in that school than the old primary school that I went to before I
Mm.
met my stepdad.
Mm. Mm.
Um,
Sure.
so I was pretty much the king of the school because I'd say that because it was like I had so many friends. Like everywhere I go, I would just say hi to like just
Wow.
every hallway. I can just say hi to everyone because everyone would know me for some reason. Because it might also be because that I was known as the girl with the short hair.
Mm.
So
Mm.
like
Mm. Mm.
because I think I stood out that way when I was in primary school and then I would also always wear the P uniform. That was also a problem
Mm.
back in
Mm.
primary school. And so
Mm.
I stood out that way, I guess, to the teachers as well. Because the
Mm.
teachers
Mm.
always like catch me and they would say, "Why are you wearing the P uniform again?" And they would
Mm. Mm.
always say that I'm like a bad student for doing that, but it's whatever. I did well in school though. Like I did okay, like in
Yeah.
school and
Yeah.
back in primary school. So like studying was not a problem. Um,
Mm.
it's just that I didn't like the rules. Like I didn't like that I
Mm.
had
Mm.
to wear the dress for
Mm,
school, but I
yeah,
didn't
sure.
know at the time like how to say that. So
Mm, mm. So you just broke the rules anyway, but and just saw what happened, right?
I didn't know like I didn't know what to say to that, you know? Like I just know that it wasn't me, but I
Mm,
didn't know how to say it to the teachers or my parents.
sure,
And my
sure.
dad would just let me, like
Mm,
he would just let me wear the PE uniform. He never like he never really, not like he didn't care, but like he let me be, you know, like he just let me be
mm.
myself, which is really nice. He let me cut my hair
Yeah,
short and all that, even though my mom did not like that, but it was
yeah, yeah.
okay.
Yeah, sure, sure, sure.
So
Yeah, so from what I hear, like it feels like you already started to develop a sense of yourself, like towards the end of primary school, kind of like who you are, what you like, and who you want to become, possibly, right? How's the transition to secondary school then? So obviously you had mixed experience in primary where one school was really good, but the other not so. How was secondary school for you?
I'm sure you remember that during my interview I had somewhat long hair because
Yeah.
that was because my mom, she kept bugging me. She was like, "You're going into secondary school. You're a grown up now. You have to
Mm,
have long hair. Like that's the right way, you know?"
mm,
And
mm,
then so I was like, "Ah, okay, fine." Because she every time I cut my hair, she bugs me about it. She's like, "Why are
mm.
you having short hair? Like why? Just why are you cutting it short? I need you to have long hair." Like and I didn't know how to say that's not who I am, and so
Yeah.
I was just like, "No, I want short hair, okay? I just want it." And then we would always have arguments. But and then at the end of primary school, I was like, oh my God, okay, I'll just do it just for you,
Mm,
okay?
mm,
Like I don't care anymore. Like just stop bugging me. And so
mm,
I grew out my hair, and then that's how I started secondary school was that I had longer hair and I tried
mm,
to
mm,
present more feminine, I guess, which I did not like at all.
mm, mm,
And then into S2, I cut my hair short, and I still remember that day I went into school and it was sunny, bright and sunny, and we were all standing in the
mm,
basketball court for
mm,
the morning routine thingy. I forgot what it was called,
mm.
but so
Like a
we were all
morning
standing in
assembly, right?
line. Yeah, yeah, the assembly. So we were all standing in line. I still remember saying hi to my friends. I still remember saying hi to C, which is one of my still
Mm,
best friends till
mm,
now. She
mm,
also went to Lau Ting Pong, and I still remember saying hi to her, but I didn't know her at the time. I was just like, "Oh
mm,
my God, what do you think of my hair?" She was just a random person to me, but and I
mm,
still remember saying hi to her, and she was like, "Oh my God, so cool." She knew that I had short hair, like long
mm,
hair before, so like
mm,
she complimented on my short hair, which was
mm,
so
mm,
cool. And I just remember that moment. It was really nice. I
mm,
remember
mm,
finally being me again.
mm, mm,
So
mm.
so that was a
Um,
really nice feeling.
so if we try to summarize kind of your junior secondary life, was it generally quite happy? Were you able to make friends and all that?
I was able to make friends, but maybe not the best kind of friends because I remember doing a lot of like bad things with the friends, like meaning breaking the rules at school.
Mm.
So maybe they're good people now, but maybe at the time, maybe they weren't the best kind of friends. So
Would you say that, like obviously with hindsight now, but would you say you were influenced or you were the influencer, as in you were
oh,
the one influencing them?
I'd say I was being influenced rather
Okay,
than being the
I'll take your word for it.
influencer.
Don't worry, we won't go.
Trust me. Wait, you don't.
We won't
It
go
doesn't
back
sound like
and
you
give you
trust me.
black marks and stuff. No, no, I absolutely trust you. Like I said, we're not going to go back and change your report cards and stuff. But
Okay.
okay, moving on to the senior secondary. So that's why Miss
Mm.
Lloyd came into your life, right? And that's where
Yep.
you also got put into different classes and stuff for the elective subjects, right?
Mm-hmm. So in S4, my elective was business management and economics, and then along with that, we had to study, you know, English, Chinese, and all that.
Mm, mm,
And Miss Lloyd was my English teacher, and I remember having her as my English teacher, and I was with my not friends anymore, but she was my classmate and she was my friend at the time, Alexia,
mm,
and we were just talking about, Miss Loy, and I don't know. We didn't like her at first, but we like her now. Okay, I like her
She's not very
now.
likable, right?
Yeah, because she's a new teacher, and you know how classmates we talk like students we talk about the new teacher sometimes. I don't know,
Mm,
like that's just what we do.
mm.
Wait, Miss Lloyd, do you want to tell us about like what do you think? What did you think when you first stepped into the classroom, like first English class with us with
Um,
the
I
S4?
remember thinking that it was a little bit intimidating. I definitely
Mm,
remember you and Alexia and a lot more students like Carlisle, Yo-Yo.
mm.
I remember having seating plans, and I remember the time I pinpointed the time where you guys didn't like me, and I don't know if
Oh,
I don't remember if Alan, if you remember, you
Mm.
actually had to come and talk to the students,
I
because
I have some recollection, yeah.
we were having some kind of homework problem.
Mm,
And I think it
oh,
was at the time of COVID. I can't remember if it was because of the 2019 protests or if it was because of
mm,
COVID. But
mm,
basically, I think it was because of the protests and we couldn't get to school. And
mm,
I had you guys do some written homework, and for some reason, you guys didn't hand it in on time. So then we had this
mm,
whole discussion. And obviously, being like my first proper school with my first class and you guys being seniors, we kind of had to be strict
mm,
with the homework policy, because if you're not strict from the start, then you kind of will never gain that kind of authority in the classroom. So I remember
mm,
going in, kind of scolding you guys a little bit, ringing
mm,
your parent or threatening to ring your parents. I
mm,
remember at some point, some of the students actually walked out when I was telling them off.
mm.
Nowhere at the time, you didn't actually come to the meeting. I remember you had an appointment.
Even worse, right?
yes, I
I
really did have an appointment though.
Yeah, you did. And I actually found the letter when I was cleaning out my desk because I'm leaving Lorting Pong this year. I actually found a letter from your dad. I actually still have it where he wrote me a letter excusing you from the meeting because I remember having a phone call with
Mm,
him. So I think that was a time where kind of like I tried to set the rules, set my authority, because we actually
Mm,
all got on really well as a class. I
mm,
remember
mm,
being really impressed with the level of English that you guys had, especially when I taught in a band 3 school before where they had very low proficiency. I
mm,
remember doing a lot of fun activities, but I think it was the homework policy which you guys didn't agree with.
mm,
But apart from that, I was really happy with the 4Y class at the time. So anyway, I know I
mm.
like it.
Yeah, so it seems like quite a rocky start to Form 4, right? In term, were you like that for all subjects, would you say? Or was it just for Miss Lloyd, just because she was a new teacher at the
oh,
school?
um, mm, I was, I was, I mean, I was never a really good student. Like, I feel like I've disrespected teachers multiple times, and I don't like that I did
Mm,
that, and I feel so bad for it.
mm,
And I've changed now, so like I'm better now, and I would never do that to like my professors or whatever. Like I would
mm,
never do that
mm,
again. But it was like I was, I mean, we talk about like my friends, we would talk about teachers, and we would like do bad things, and it was not cool, I guess, at the time. But it was not just Miss Loy's class, it was other classes too. But
I'm sure Miss
I've
Lloyd's happy
changed
to hear
now, so
that.
like I've
Um,
Good to hear.
changed now, so it's not like that anymore. It's no longer like that. And I
sure.
do apologize to all those teachers that I've, disrespected, because like at the time I was going through a lot. I
Mm,
was trying to figure out who I am,
mm,
and I was going through some stuff as well, which I want to go into later, which is why Miss Law is also here with
yeah.
us today. And then, yeah, it was a lot. I was having trouble with friends as well,
Mm, mm,
and we would argue, and then we would make it okay again, but it was like going back and forth a lot, and
mm,
my
mm,
mental
mm.
health was not okay at
Yeah,
the
yeah.
time, so there was like just a lot going on.
Mm. And I remember you told me beforehand that you wanted to dive a bit deeper into mental health issues, right? For today's
Hmm.
podcast. Do you want to maybe just outline a little bit? I mean, tell us as much as you're comfortable with, obviously. But the kind of
Okay,
struggles or the problems that you were going through, and then Miss Lloyd's role in that, or
okay.
in helping
I
you. Let me
was
make sure it's phrased well. Otherwise, it's not caused by Miss Lloyd, hopefully, right?
oh no, I was never really aware of like the mental health stuff until I experienced it myself.
Mm, mm,
And so I I think I first started having problems in S4,
mm,
and I remember just talking to Miss Loy about it, like, and because I was afraid that if I let my parents know, they
mm,
wouldn't love me anymore or something, like something crazy
mm.
like that,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
not true. Like they
I
still
can
love
imagine.
me.
Yeah.
And
Mm,
I told them like it's all out there
mm,
right now. They're
mm,
aware that I have these mental um problems right now.
mm,
And I remember just talking to Miss Loy, I was like, hey, I'm so scared. Like, should I
mm,
tell my dad or like how should I tell them and
mm.
like what should I do? And we just basically we talked and do you remember what you said, Miss Loy?
Yeah, I think it was actually at the end of S4, more towards S5 at this point, because we
Mm,
kind of we had a whole year together. Of course, it was kind of like online. We had a lot of online presence because of
mm,
COVID. But I
mm,
think it was more in your S5 years where you started to realize that you were not
Mm,
okay. And you
mm,
actually rang me because at that time the school encouraged us to share our numbers so that we could contact students, especially during
mm,
COVID,
mm,
just to make sure that everyone's okay. So Noah actually rang me, and I remember being in Typo Market Station and him asking me what should he do. He really
mm,
feels like he needs help,
mm,
but he doesn't know how
mm,
to tell his dad. And I
mm,
remember us talking back and forth. And at first, Noah actually went and spoke to his dad, but I
mm,
think you said he wasn't very responsive at first, so that you
yeah,
didn't.
mm,
he just kind of like brushed it off at first.
mm,
So,
mm.
But I just kind of encouraged you to try and tell him again how you're really
mm,
feeling. Because at the time, like I wouldn't say that Noah was the best communicator in terms of his
mm,
feelings.
Mm,
I remember a lot of times in S4 there when you were feeling emotional, there was a lot of outbursts. So I thought that
mm,
maybe the way that he was communicating with his dad, maybe the communication style wasn't quite right. So I said, why don't we break it down? You tell
mm,
him the very basics that you need help. And I think
mm,
after the second conversation, he actually came around to say, okay, let's do this. And then he spoke to you about what he was going to do for you as well. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I just want to zoom in a little bit on the moment where you felt you weren't okay and you wanted to talk to someone, but you obviously, like you said, you didn't want to talk to your parents. Why Miss Loy? Like, because I think she was only your English teacher, or was she also your class teacher too?
she was only my English teacher,
Yeah,
but for some
so
reason
why her? Yeah.
I feel like I connected to her like more than the other teachers. There's just something inside of me that was telling me that like she would understand.
Mm,
Like she would
mm,
understand it.
mm.
And so I trusted her and I told her everything that
Yeah.
was going on.
Mm,
And so I was reaching out to her instead of my parents or my friends or anyone first.
mm.
So
Yeah, I mean, obviously, trust takes a long time to build up, right? And given that you mentioned at the start you didn't particularly like Miss Loy, right? Do you feel
yeah.
there's
But I feel
anything
like that was
particular?
also influenced by my friends. Like it was also because of my
Mm.
friends. A lot of it was because of my
Do you want
friends.
to name
But
who
I
it was,
didn't feel like
or not on air right now?
oh
You don't
but
have
I
to.
didn't oh okay. But yeah, back on reaching out, I reached out and then so I ended up telling my dad and
Mm,
he was the second time I told him it was better. Like I communicated in a better way.
mm,
So he suggested that we go see some sort of like professional
yeah.
like people to talk to first to see if I
Mm,
need to be on medication and
mm,
whatnot. At
mm,
first I suggested maybe we should just see a psychologist to like talk things through, but and then he said maybe we should see someone like a psychiatrist to
mm,
like see if I need to be on meds, which I did need to be on meds. So we did that and then should we just jump forward to when I was hospitalized? I
it's up
think
to
Miss
you,
Lloyd.
really. I mean, I guess my question for you was how receptive were you to the idea of getting external help? Like, so obviously, not everyone is really. I mean, everyone reacts very differently, right? Some people are totally fine with getting help. Other people are like, no, no, I don't have no issue. You don't want to admit it, and then you feel like if
Oh, that's
getting
my
help
mom.
is,
That's my mom.
mm,
That's my
mm,
mom acts like that. she was not happy at first when I was like on meds and talking to the psychologist. She was not happy about that. But she doesn't like me being on meds. She's like
Mm,
holistic. She just doesn't, she believes in organic stuff and whatnot. Like she
mm,
doesn't
mm,
like them on
mm,
meds. But that's another topic. But
mm,
yeah, back on just getting help. I knew that I needed help
mm,
from everyone. So like
mm, mm.
I was just okay with getting the help. I was
Uh,
not like I want help.
yeah,
So
yeah. I think that's really, really useful actually at these kind of moments when you're willing to be helped, because that, like I said, there are some people who are not willing. So you mentioned that you were also hospitalized, right?
hmm
Do you
and
want to
I'm
tell us a
just
bit
so
more about that?
grateful
Yeah.
that I had reached out to Miss Loy and
Mm,
along with other teachers like Mr. Chow.
mm.
I would have loved for him to be on the podcast too, but it would have been really crowded. So
Mr.
but
Chow's your
yeah, he
class
played a
teacher, right?
big part in it. Yeah, he was my class
Mm,
teacher. He played a big part in this too. So going forward to, I think it was S5. Was it S5? The first time I got hospitalized? I think
Yes.
yeah. Okay, so the first time I got hospitalized, it was bad. I did like it was bad because even though
mm,
I was on meds, for some reason I did something bad to myself and I ended up
mm,
in the hospital.
mm,
And this went on for like 2 to 3 times. And then the last time I got hospitalized, the fourth time, was because they changed my meds
mm,
and I was
mm,
still at school at the time doing all these things with
mm,
my friends and schoolwork and all that. And it was really overwhelming because we were
mm,
trying to prepare for the DSC and whatnot.
mm, mm.
And and then so we were always doing the the papers and whatnot,
Yeah.
and we had lots of homework. And then I remember just doing everything all at once. And it's kind of like a blur to me because like I was at the time I was not doing so well.
Mm,
They changed my meds, so I don't know what was going on in my head, but I remember being like I wanted to pace back and forth. I was like in a manic phase because it
mm,
went from my first diagnosis was depression and anxiety, and then they changed my meds for some reason, and then
mm,
it went to something else. And that something else, I didn't know what it was at the time because I just knew I was like on top of the world. I kept pacing back and forth.
mm,
I wanted to talk a lot, and
mm,
it was not normal. But I was
mm,
really happy. But that kind of happy was not normal.
mm, mm,
And and I knew that, and so I reached out to Miss Loy and Mr. Chow, and I told them, "Hey, I'm like feeling this way. I don't know if it's normal. I'm like pacing back and forth, and I can't stop talking, and like I'm
mm,
doing everything all at once." And I remember I also I was I don't think I was able to attend the classes too, so I stayed in the library,
mm,
and
mm,
um and the librarian at the time, they were really nice to me, and we talked about things as
mm,
well. And I just remember being in the library because I couldn't sit still, but I was like
mm,
pacing back and forth in the library. At least I wasn't like bothering
mm.
other people, so that was fine. I
Yeah.
remember Miss Loy suggesting that I should probably be like walking in the basketball court because that might make me feel
Mm,
better
mm.
too. So but I never did that. I just stayed in the library because I didn't want
Yeah.
I some part of me didn't want anyone to see me like that.
Mm, mm,
So and then I remember just talking to my dad at the time too because he was away. I think it
mm.
was also because he was away for too long. And then there was like COVID
Yeah, yeah,
restrictions and
yeah,
whatnot.
yeah.
And then so he got stuck in the US, so he was not
Mm,
back in Hong Kong yet. And
mm,
so I FaceTimed him. I was like, "Hey, Dad, I was feeling like this, and
mm.
what should I do? Because this is not normal at all." And
Yeah.
I figured out that was not normal.
Mm,
And so I ended up calling the ambulance, and they took me to the hospital, and I got hospitalized, and that was
right.
really traumatic. And
Mm,
Miss Loy and Mrs. Chow, they would every now and then they would come bring me stuff like
mm,
from like to the hospital. And because my mom was working and
mm,
she works
mm.
till late at night, so by the time she gets to the hospital says no, you can't
Oh,
give
right.
things
You
to
can't
Noah
visit, right?
anymore.
Mm, mm,
Yeah, so there's like a time frame where they can come in to visit and whatnot. So um And then after I got discharged, that was it was really bad too, because the time at the hospital was really traumatic.
Mm,
And then being discharged, I was out in the world after being in the hospital for I think almost 2 months without
mm,
any outside communication, like not going to see my friends, or I can't really talk on the phone because even if I talked on the phone, there's like a time limit,
mm,
and each person can only call like one call per day and like for 5 minutes or something.
mm.
So it was like really, it did a lot on me. And I remember being discharged, and I could barely take the minibus
Mm.
because I keep getting panic attacks. It was really bad. And I remember Miss Loy and Mr. Chow, they were talking about it and they were trying to help me. And Mr. Chow ended up driving me home like a couple of
Mm,
times.
mm.
It was allowed, right, Miss Loy? Miss
Yeah.
Loy?
Yeah,
Okay,
we just
cool.
made sure, just for safeguarding, that it was always me, Mr. Chow, and Noah in the car at the same
Yeah.
time. So it'd always be the three of us, and we'd pick him up, make sure he was okay. Luckily, Mr. Chow had a car, so we would drive him back to home. But I remember, like, before the hospitalization, like, I think at the time when Noah went in, he was actually put in the adult ward. So even though he was only 16 at the time,
Mm.
the
Mm.
children's psychiatry ward was actually full.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I think like Noah just experienced a lot in the adult ward,
Yeah.
yeah. And it was probably more of the way that even though he was in manic phases, it was more of the way that they kind of treated him to try and calm him down.
Mm,
It
mm,
was just like as if he was any other patient. And I think that's what really stuck with him.
mm. As a
Yeah,
teacher, like kind of face. Oh, sorry. You first, yeah.
yeah, I was just gonna say we don't have to go into the details in case it like triggers anyone or anything like that. But like
Mm,
that at the time, like being in the hospital, it was really traumatic, and just coming out of the hospital, it was a lot. And I'm just so grateful that Mr. Chow and Miss Lloyd, they were both there to help me
mm,
to like get through it, to like recover from that traumatic like event. And gradually I was okay. Like we did it step by step, and
mm.
eventually I was able to take the minibus again and do everything by myself. But it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like a lot of the help was from Miss Lloyd and Mr. Chow.
How much did you tell friends about it?
To my best friends, I told them pretty much everything, and they
Mm,
were really understanding and supportive, and they were like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry that happened to you," and they were all really upset that those bad things happened to me at the hospital,
mm,
and they were all really supportive, and they were all there for me. And
mm,
um, I remember before I got hospitalized, I remember just not being like in my like not being myself because I was really manic and all that. But I remember I think it was Ceci's last day of
mm,
school. And it was her last day at school, but I didn't go to school because I wasn't feeling myself and I was not in the mood for it or whatever. And I kind of regret that because it was
mm,
her last day of school. I should have been there, you know. It was her last day at Lau Ting Pong, and she was going to study abroad.
mm.
So that's one of my regrets. But
Right.
and then I was hospitalized, but it's okay.
Right, right.
So
Yeah, and also for Miss Lloyd, I'm just curious, as a teacher going through this with the student, how was it for you? Because obviously it kind of depends on your knowledge, your previous experience of students going through mental health issues. How was it for you?
I would say like Noah being one of my very first students that actually reached out and needed help.
Mm,
It was a very steep learning curve for me and
mm,
Mr. Chow. I think that like one of the reasons why Noah reached out to me is because of my background, because I come from the UK and mental health is taken
mm,
seriously in the UK.
mm, mm,
Not that it's not taken seriously in Hong Kong, but there's a lot more support provided in the UK for those who are suffering at the time. And I just made it very clear there's kind of no judgment, whatever you tell me. I
mm,
mean,
mm,
I did note that if there was anything that he told me that would potentially put himself or any others in harm's way, then I would have to report it. He fully understood, and Noah actually still reached out to me. And I would say one of the things was that Noah at the time had a lot of pride because of, as he said, like in primary school, he was the king of primary school. He had a lot of friends, and he, as he said, he didn't want to be seen as the person that had some any, as most people would, because of the stigma around mental health, like a lot of people will feel like it's something negative. But luckily for Noah, he always wanted help. It was just more, he wanted someone to communicate it for him. So I remember when we rang his dad, and we actually had a Zoom call with his dad, me and Mr. Chow were there, and we were kind of just there for support so that he could feel like he could express himself. And then kind of when he felt like he couldn't, then he'll kind of give us a nudge and be like, can you please tell him what is kind of happening? It's the same happened with the school. And luckily the school actually was very supportive at the time. I remember we had Mr. Jackie Leung there, who was the discipline teacher. We had Dr. Wanula, and they managed to form a network for Noah. And I said that was really important. The main thing is we need to have a network for you, so that if one of us is not available, then someone else is there. Slowly, we started adding people one by one. So at first it was me and Mr. Chow, and then it was me, Mr. Chow, and then the discipline teachers at school, and then slowly we incorporated Noah's friends. But I would say, yeah, it was just a very steep learning curve for Chow being new teachers.
Yeah, I can imagine. And for Noah, for you, like, was there anything, do you feel that as teachers that they did which surprised you? As in, they kind of almost went beyond what you would expect a normal teacher to do?
I'm just surprised that because again, I was never really like a good student, I guess, up until like I've experienced everything, like mental health problems. And so I'm just really surprised that like teachers like Miss Lloyd, Mr. Chow, or any other teachers that was like that were helping me at the time. Like I'm just really surprised that they were willing to help me, despite everything that I've done before. So I'm just like really grateful that Mr. Chow and Miss Lloyd, and along with many other teachers that helped me. I'm just really grateful to to have them like be there for me.
Yeah. And to anyone who's listening, possibly a student going through a mental health issue, or a teacher helping a student go through a mental health issue, do you have anything to say to them?
I would say it's really important to like maybe be aware of the flags. Maybe sometimes students act out because they're going through something, and like a lot of the times when I acted out in class towards teachers, it was not because I wanted to be disrespectful to them, it was more like I was going through a lot and I didn't know how to voice that, and so that ended up being me like just being mean to teachers and like just doing bad things to like my classmates and whatnot. So sometimes, these are the flags that you can like just take notes of, but like it's not always that, but sometimes it's that,
Sure.
So I would say to like be aware of the signs and maybe talk to the students more if they're acting out or if they're going through a tough time. If you notice that sometimes they're not 100% themselves, then maybe go up to them and ask them, "Hey, how's your day?" and just ease into it and try to see what's going on.
Sure.
Because you never know, they might be going through a really tough time.
Sure. If I flip the question to both of you, like, are there things that we shouldn't do, like based on your experience, like things maybe teachers did try to do, but there was definitely the wrong thing to do at that time? Anything that you can think of? Miss Law, you can also say something too about this.
I would say for a lot of teachers, sometimes we are very quick to judge, especially if students don't hand in homework, things like that. And sometimes you may take the stern approach. I think throughout kind of my 5 years teaching at Lo Ting Pong, there's always, as Noah said, there's always some kind of underlying reason to why students act out. Could be mental health, it could be things happening at home. So like the way that I've started to approach students after meeting Noah is more having more patience showing more kindness, showing more empathy, the fact that I understand, try to put myself in their shoes, I understand the stresses that they're going through. I find a lot of the times maybe other teachers might find me really relaxed, my style of teaching, or they may find that kind of maybe a pushover, because I do kind of value students' well-being above anything else in my classroom. But I would say that just encountering the number of students that I've taught in Hong Kong and the number of mental health issues that they've all had, I think that definitely my approach has made me more visible, more approachable for students to come and find me. And sometimes I would say to teachers that also you need to take care of yourself, especially when, especially for me and Mr. Chow, we kind of really threw 100% in for Noah, and I don't regret it, like 120% in, but sometimes teachers also feel the burnout as well and take a lot of the pressure. And I would say that if you are a teacher that is helping a student through this, just remember to also take care of yourself as well, so that you're not burning whilst you're helping a student. Because once the teacher burns out, then you're not able to help anyone, really.
Very, very good reminders. Thank you. Noah, anything else to add before we finish?
Nothing really. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Can I just tell you how brave you are to share your story with the world? Because
oh my God,
it's really tough to talk through. Like, even for you, I'm sure you might not have had the chance to really sit down and think through your experiences. So to do that, to benefit other people, I think that's the important thing, right? To let other people who might be going through a similar situation that you went through, and to help teachers as well to get students through these situations, and also to show your gratitude to Miss Law as well. So I know that's something that you really wanted to achieve in this podcast. So really appreciate that. And yeah, I will leave the last word to you. Anything last words that you want to say to everyone?
Don't be afraid to reach out. That's very important. When you need help, reach out. That's very important.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And thank you, Miss Loy, for coming on to the podcast too.
Thank you, Miss Loy. Thank you, Mr.
Having
Chang.
me.
Both Noah and Miss Loy gave us some very timely reminders in terms of how to help students going through mental health issues. Noah mentioned how acting out is a signal for teachers to pay attention to, particularly when they're acting very differently from how they normally are. Miss Loy also mentioned how being patient, being kind, showing empathy are all important things to do during these times. And probably the most important thing is not to judge students so quickly, because you never know what they're going through. I hope you enjoyed listening to Noah's extraordinary story, and please do join us again next time on Ordinary Teachers and Students.